day, having a great time here at Tampa Bay Comic Con. We're about to do the voice actors panel. You guys ready for this? We have a lot of animation fans here. Alright, well let's get this show on the road. Here we go with Phil Lamarr, Charlie Adler, and Rodger Bumpass.
We're so loud, we need a mic.
I love this cat. We've got match game mics. I'm Jim Ramer.
There are children in the audience.
The mic is too long. Children in the audience?
Yeah, children in the audience. Uh-oh.
They're too young to know any of our work.
Oh, they're too old to be surrounded by us.
We are going to talk about heavy metal at some point. We're going to get hand over fist at some point. So, children in the audience is not appropriate.
Hanging's too good for it.
All right, so let's get going here. When I do panels with voice actors, a lot of times what I like to do is find out how you got into voice acting. It's a different path, somewhat than traditional acting, but a lot of you probably started with traditional acting, but somehow made the jump to voice acting. How did that happen for each of you? Why don't you start?
Well, my story started at puberty. I had a really high voice when I was a kid, and when it dropped like the mumps during adolescence, and got into broadcasting, but got more interested in acting and making stupid voices, and I figured, well, that was the way to go. And that's a exceedingly boring storyline, but that's what happened with me.
Mine is so odd. I was, I work with mics, you think. I was an actor in New York, and in New York you can do anything. I could go, I would do a play at night, and during the day I'd do a commercial, the next day I would do a radio spot. It was all one career as opposed to Los Angeles, which compartmentalizes things, a big word I know for me. But I was in a play in New York, and I got hired and cast in My Little Pony, the original.
You were Pony number 4, right?
I was Spike, the baby dragon, and it was with Tony Randall and Sandy Duncan.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, those are the two specials. And then we did another one a year later, and then they did a movie with Danny DeVito and Cloris Leachman and God knows who else, and then turned it into a series. And I moved to LA where they turned it into a series. It was very odd.
Yeah.
It was all accidental. I think life is an accident. Phil, what's your story? What dominated?
No, that's crazy. That's like, welcome to Stephen Sondheim's My Little Pony.
I sure as hell didn't.
Well, no, I mean, when I started out in show business, voice acting wasn't a job description. You know, it was something you did if you got a job using your voice. You know, it's like you were an actor, and you acted on camera or on stage or, you know, on mic. You know, I sort of liken it to, like before Bill Gates, you know, tech billionaire wasn't a thing. It was just the thing he did. You know, and then voiceover, you know, before cable was like, well, you know, that thing Mel Blanc does.
Well, that's true. You just said a cable. I think cable opened up all our worlds.
Yeah, in the 90s, and suddenly all of these channels, you know, and a lot of, you know, Nickelodeon, 24 hours of cartoons, all of a sudden there are a lot more jobs.
And now it's happening again because now there's
Streaming, and there's all kinds of avenues now for people to work in, which is good and bad for us that shows the professional path, because there's not a lot of non-union stuff. People can audition with their iPhone in their closet in Iowa, so we're auditioning against more people now.
Yes,
let's go
to Iowa and get a closet.
I've got one in my car right now. But to flesh out my little part of this story, I went to New York straight from Arkansas, and talk about a culture shock. Got involved with the National Lampoon right when they were doing Animal House, and they were hot at that moment, so they were offered by Universal to do the next Jaws film, which was the third Jaws film, and the title of our story was Jaws 3: People's Hero. And the best thing about that whole thing was the title, by the way. But it was a comedy. We were going to show how Bruce, the shark, worked in Jaws. And of course, Mr. Spielberg stepped in and said, "No, it's going to ruin the fantasy of my movie. So you either cancel this film or I'm going to, walk." So what do you think they did? And another sad part about it was that according to the script, I had a love scene with Bo Derek. Yo, so that was my Hollywood tragedy story. So after that, I just walk down the office at William Morris and say, I can do funny stuff if I could, give me a chance in the and so in short order, thank God, became my bread and butter. So that's my more fleshed out story. I had to add that.
All right. My very first professional job was a cartoon, the Mr. T cartoon, when I was actually in high school. But then I went away to college and then came back to LA where I grew up and started pursuing acting. And I did almost predominantly stage and on camera stuff and did no voiceover until actually I started on a sketch comedy show called Mad TV. See, latchkey kids. And we did a bunch of claymation stuff, and that's where I really learned to do cartoon voices. Because they were already paying us to be in the episodes, and said, "And you do the cartoons too!" And then after I left Mad TV, I said, "You know what, I really kind of like that." And I began to pursue, cartoon work more. And I turned out to really like it and be pretty good at it. And
I'll say.
I actually, got much more of that work than I was getting the other work. I'm like, all right, fine.
You just touched on something I think for anybody who wants to do this or consider doing this kind of work. All of us started as character actors in other venues. So Phil is an amazing example because his body of work in terms of the characters that he created on Mad TV, all it took was an extra bump of crazy for you to do a cartoon.
Right.
It wasn't, this huge stretch. You were made for it. And most people, if you're interested in this, improv is a great way in to create characters. Being a solid actor is the best way in, and being a comic actor.
Acting is the most important part.
Yeah.
It's always amusing / hacking me off when people say, "Oh, you do voice work. Do you ever get a chance to do any acting?"
Real acting?
Yeah, real acting.
Damn, this is me.
Always like the commercials of real people, not actors.
Yeah, don't say it.
Don't say it.
Right, I try to use more traditional.
No,
It's not even that's fair.
but voiceover all acting.
Voiceover acting is acting with a handicap. Hands and legs tied behind your head, a sack over your head. All you have is this, and this. So.
And it's got to be more difficult too to do that when you don't always have another actor that you're working with and reacting to, right? It's got to be a
Well,
lot
I
of
got to tell you
challenge.
something. I branched out. I started directing about 20 years ago because I saw
Yeah.
I started getting old.
As many amazing shows as Charlie has done, he's directed 3 times at it.
Thank you.
And they're all incredible.
Thank you, and you've been in a good deal of them. That's what made me incredible. I forgot where I was going. God, sorry. No, what?
Directed and
Oh, it's my experience that the best actors to work with as a director are actors who are solid actors, who may not have done voice work in animation, has never acted for animation, but who understand what makes a scene and where comedy lives and where a dramatic scene lives, and who have a capacity to create right on the spot and make these great shifts emotional shifts like this. So it is an actor's medium. And some of the greatest actors that I've worked with over the years are huge movie stars and huge theater stars and Tony winners and Oscar winners and Emmy winners, and they really sometimes just need a little tweak about how much push or how much energy or how much throw they have to do. By throw, I mean you put your energy forward as opposed to film, which is very interior and very silent.
Just don't tell William Shatner anything to do. Don't direct me. It sickles me. It sickles me.
He's quoting him, it's true.
you mentioned earlier about how cable really changed animation. All of you were there working to some degree or another in animation in the late 70s even and 80s. You did Mr. T, right? That was
83.
83, right? In that kind of golden age of what we used to call Saturday morning cartoons, right? That I grew up with, where you had this all week long, you had to wait for that Saturday morning to see those Saturday morning cartoons. It was such a cool special thing. And, Charlie, you were on every show back then. It seems like G.I. Joe and Smurfs, and pretty much you name a 1980s cartoon.
Transformers, Jen, My Little Pony.
Yeah, everything.
Love Friends.
All of it.
Well, there were like 12 of you guys doing like 30 cartoons, right?
Well, it was a great time, but also cable, and forgive me if this isn't right, syndication was also another huge market. It was just networks, which was ABC, CBS, whatever the one I didn't say. Something else.
NBC.
Thank you. And then Fox Kids.
Oh, right, and the after-school cartoon.
Right, so you didn't have to wait for the weekends to see the cartoons. They were on every single day. It was morning, noon, and night. That was syndication. Right. Then cable came, but by the time cable came, it was already a huge boom from syndication in terms of the 80s and 90s shows, which were so humongously. I should have retired.
I started in animation just after the Civil War, which was very difficult because we didn't have electricity. And they had to put each individual cell on a picket fence down a dark road. And you had to run fast. And the voiceover actors had to follow you and do the sounds. Talk to me about hardness.
Uphill. So, how did that change? Now we have multiple, getting into the 2000s, 24-hour, cartoons, and it really has just blown up. Do you kind of miss those old days? I mean, for me, in some ways, I kind of, I love that my kids are exposed to so much great animation all the time, but I also kind of miss the fact that they'll never know what it's like to wake up on that Saturday morning with their bowl of Cheerios.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's a great phrase. Don't look back, they're gaining on you.
Yeah.
No, it's funny you mentioned that, Jeff, because one of the interesting things was last year we brought back a show I worked on in the 2000s, Samurai Jack. When we first did Samurai Jack from 2000 to 2004, it was a traditional Cartoon Network cartoon. Every episode, started and went back in the same place. But now, in 2016, you can do, an entire episode-long, season-long story. But the best part was watching this whole generation of you who've grown up binging. It's like, oh, I love this episode. I love this show. Let me watch all of them. To have to watch you guys have to sit and wait 7 days for the next episode. It was incredible because after every episode, everybody would get online. It's like, well, obviously the season is this is what's going to happen. It's like, shut up, go to work, come back on Saturday. Nothing you can do.
That's what I'm talking about. There's something about that anticipation.
And you can make a whole career off the UPS man. Favorite character, that was just absolutely wonderful on Mad TV. That was my introduction to you, was the UPS character.
Oh, cool. It's funny because I first did it at the Groundlings, which is a comedy group that was part of in LA, and we did it on stage, as a live sketch. 3 minutes. That's it. It's easy to jump around for 3 minutes. Then all of a sudden we moved to TV. It's like, okay, we have to shoot this sketch for an hour and a half. Oh, hey, I got a pitch. How about a scene where he sits down?
It's not in his character, sorry.
That could work.
So speaking of characters, who were your favorite characters in your careers that took place?
My favorite, well, I'm in love with all the characters in Cow and Chicken.
Tour de force, guys.
I was in love with Cow because she's innocent, and innocence just makes me laugh. When they're surrounded by terribleness. I loved Ickis on Our Real Monsters. I was in love with him. There's one more, but I'm old. Rocco's Modern Life.
Oh, yeah.
I talk to myself. Apparently, my career, I talk to myself.
Yeah, you do multiple characters a lot.
in my car.
You were doing it backstage also.
I was watching Rock and
Yourself backstage also. You're talking to me for half an hour.
Just like it wasn't you?
No.
I don't know. I've been fortunate enough to work on a bunch of different shows that brought really special things to me. Like I got to be a Jedi in the Star Wars universe, the universe I grew up on. I got to work on Justice League, and as a comic book, kid, that was just a dream.
You made Jon Stewart the Green Lantern for a while. Nobody knew who Hal Jordan was for a while.
That's right. Silver Age, my butt.
For a whole generation, Jon Stewart was Green Lantern.
So it's, to me, it's who you get to work with, that colors how you feel about the character. Sure. Because you can work on a great show, but every time you go in there, it's like, oh, that guy again. It's hard to love it. But honestly, my favorite character is the next one. Will I work next week?
What's your motivation? A paycheck.
Roger.
What was the question again?
Who are some of your favorite characters that you've done?
That I've done before. Some of the favorite characters that I've done, no one's really heard them. There's a character that I did on a couple of different pilots, and it was just fun to do.
He was just a guy that says, "Do not try this at home. We are trained professionals."
And it was just I have no idea, Little Kitties or something like that. It never made it. Never made a lot of day. But it's just I keep trying to plug this in. I was reading for Optimus Prime the other day.
Hi, I'm going to change now.
And actually, the most rewarding, but not necessarily financially rewarding, is that and a lot of us have done this before, is to have voices on rides at amusement parks. I got some at Disney World and at Universal. Wow. And you only get paid once, it's no big deal, but you go there and you hear your voice. It's so wonderful.
Okay, can I just add this? So I did Starscream in the Transformers movies. So the movies? Yeah. So they asked me to come, invited me to come and do the ride at Universal. Nice. So my niece and nephew are visiting, and I never went on the ride. My life is too scary a ride to pay to be terrorized. So I get online, I get in the damn car, they have 3D glasses. And by the way, it's a pretty amazing ride. I closed my eyes the minute the ride started. I was like this. It was like Stevie Wonder. And I get off the ride, and my niece and nephew go, "Oh, Charlie, it was so great. Did you like it?" I said, "Oh, it was great. It was so great."
It sounded really good.
I couldn't tell you what it looked like.
It smells good
I
too.
can't do the motion thing.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people can't do it. Yeah.
That was kind of a nice
But
breakfast.
they heard you, right?
Yeah, I couldn't tell. I think I napped. But I think it's a great ride. People always, want to come back and all, but anyway, sorry about that.
That's actually kind of nice. What was it like doing the voices?
On the mic, Jeff, on the mic.
Oh, sorry, thank you. What was it like doing the voices in Transformers? How different was that than animation? I mean, is it similar? Is it basically the same thing?
It was different because in animation you go in with a script and they animate to what we do. In Transformers movies, all the work had already been done, and they plug us in after.
Oh, because but there's no mouths moving. There's no mouths
Well,
to match, right?
you have to match a time code, and I think there were, but don't ask me because I don't remember breakfast. And it was a very precise thing, and it was exhausting because Michael Bay, the director, is so collaborative and weirdly playful. He's like a big kid, which shocked me. And he would, well, what about this? Let's try that. Let's try this. And it wasn't an easy voice. It was,
Throat rivers.
So after an hour and a half, I was, in fetal position on the studio floor. But I liked it. It was a very collaborative thing because he allowed all of us to sort of contribute to what we thought might happen, or it was a great experience. And I have to say, and I'm not even good at my toaster, so computer stuff is I don't even get that stuff. But you know what is it called? Terabytes? Is it terabytes or?
Ted Turner bites.
Ted Turner bites. Very visual. Yeah, is that what it's called?
Terabytes.
Gigabytes.
So, gigabytes, but it's more than that.
Terabytes is more than
Gigabytes. Terabytes is more, yeah.
So in the studio, they would freeze frame, and Michael would say, "Look at that." And honest to God, I don't know if you guys saw the pictures. I don't know if you identify with this, but the detail that these brilliant artists put in was mind-blowing. It really was, and it used up all that memory to do all that art. It was really
that was
amazing.
actually there, right?
Yeah, they were pretty incredible.
I just wish they had spent the money to get a tripod for a camera. Talk about nauseous. I saw the first Transformer film and had to sit in the first row. Not one steady shot in the whole damn thing. I'm nauseous in 14 seconds.
I rest my case, and that's the ride.
There it is.
14 seconds.
So why don't we start pitching it out to the audience for questions. We have mics on either side over here, so if you want to ask a question, please go to the mics and line up. If you're waiting in line, please kneel down or sit down on the floor until you get up to the mics so people behind you can see. And while they're lining up, let me ask you real quick to take the opportunity to pitch some of your projects you're working on now.
You're mostly not allowed to talk about them.
Yeah, anything that you don't have an NDA, is there anything you can...
Everything's NDA, non-disclosure agreement, meaning that they want to own the release of the information about the production, and they want to make whatever the announcements to publicize it. And so we are bound to not speak about what we're doing. And so if you ask me what I'm doing based on NDA, I'm unemployed. Which is not true. But I can't talk about it.
And that having been said, screw them. We're making a new movie at SpongeBob.
Did you just say that?
Well,
You're fired.
somebody's making.
It wasn't what I wanted to say, though.
Well, I found one way around NDAs is to actually produce your own project. And last fall, I did a crowdfunding campaign for a project called Goblins, which is a D&D world where the little low-level monsters that you just cut their heads off to get some experience points and move up decide to become an adventuring party.
That's awesome.
It's so much fun. It's my buddy Matt King and my friend Terrell Hunt who wrote the webcomic, and yeah, that's amazing. And it's based on Terrell's webcomic that he's been doing it started out as a hobby. It's now what he does for a living after 11 years, and it's so funny, and also it's got like great feels to it and like amazing action. And we're trying to, turn it into an animated series. So
That's great. As an old D&D guy, that's great.
we need a director, Charlie. You
Yes, I am. Call my agent.
You need a UPS guy in that. Goblin UPS guy.
You need giant rats in the basement and kobolds.
Right. Well, no, it's so fun because the goblins, sort of the Native American tribe sort of feel where all the names of the characters, like there's a character who's got great big ears. He is called Big Ears. And my character is complains of names. I mean, why would you name this guy Dies Horribly? He's living his entire life in fear. Complains of names. What kind of a name is that?
Good, I love it.
You go to your wigwam and complain about your ancestors.
It's cousin from
Smurfs? Yeah.
That was my first series, was Smurfs.
I was on the Smurfs in 1982.
Was that Oldie Smurf?
Now this is oldie Smurf. Then it was youngie Smurf.
All right, let's go out to the audience here for some questions. Samir?
Yeah, I asked about to Phil.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to find out about the incident you have with Brad the Hitman Hart on the set of Mad TV.
What on the set of Mad TV?
Remember when Brad Hitman Hart went crazy?
Oh, there was a period on Mad TV where we had a bunch of wrestlers and like wrestling sketches, and it was really funny because nobody assumes sketch comedy is real. But apparently a bunch of people think wrestling is. It's not real! Bret Hitman Hart did not go crazy. We had a script.
Stunt theater.
Stunt theater.
Oh, that's...
You know.
Over here.
It's Luigi!
Okay, first of all, the Transformer ride at Universal, to me, it sucks. And then my second question.
Same moment. The actual question.
What is your favorite voice line from Squidward?
I didn't know it was happy, hopping, moron there. I have $1 for every brain you don't have. I have $1.
Thank you.
Hello. So my question is, do each of you have a favorite voice that you like to use in your work?
Do we have a favorite what?
Favorite voice.
Favorite voice.
Well, I think you answered that, right? You had that.
My little voice was the one I just did there, and of course, that's just the love of my life.
Mine is Cal.
Yay!
I don't know. Which one do you like?
I like Wilt from Foster's.
Oh, sorry, I didn't say that. Is that okay?
Hi, do you, well, kind of like for all y'all, do you...
Know the way to San Jose? I have. I may go wrong and lose my way.
Because I've been looking into voice acting for a while, and I was wondering, do you normally record at a studio or at your home?
Studios, yeah.
Audition sometimes.
I audition at home, yeah. In the closet in Iowa.
It's a long slap when he gets to gigs.
Yeah, because they need to be able to control the quality of the recording. For an audition, they just need to be able to hear basically what you're doing. But for broadcast quality, it has to be done in a studio, or at least with studio quality sound and software.
And studio snacks and stuff.
I need to have some turkey bacon and apple. Not have some of that stuff.
Lobby studios. And a director is screaming all the time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, no. There's somebody there.
If you could be best friends with one of the characters that you voice, who would it be?
They're right there.
No, I don't know. Best friends. Best friends. Not Samurai Jack, because he's a little messed up. It'll probably be Virgil Hawkins from Static Shock. I feel like that's the character that, like, if I was 14 and got electrical powers, that's pretty much what I do.
I think Buster Bunny twins.
Or the red guy.
You are friends with the red guy.
I would like a really good friendship with Professor Membrane.
Oh yeah!
Because I like toast! And real science. My poor insane son.
Find somebody that Mike is the right height for.
So first of all, I just want to thank you guys for being my child. Like, I was born in '97. I grew up on you guys.
No, thank you for buying the cereal.
Glad to ruin it.
One of my favorite questions to ask voice actors is always like, what are some of just your favorite moments in the booth, whether it be on recording that's like in the show or something that maybe didn't make the cut?
Oh, I couldn't even begin to speak publicly about it.
Believe me. Not with children. Yeah, that's common. Or any adult either.
We are sometimes so bawdy and horrified, even I at the end they go,
Did we say that?
Erase the tape! Erase the tape!
In SpongeBob, we have a way of recording where we do like a couple of pages at a time the way they want it, and then we get to do what we call the crazy take. So we get to ad-lib and do whatever we want. And we go way off color just for our own amusement. And the engineer has kept all of that stuff. Someday it'll come out.
before you want me to.
Yes.
It's not just working with like navy blue. Right?
No, not navy blue, no. This is way beyond any tapestry color you ever saw.
Cobalt Plus.
Yes.
Actually, one of my favorite moments, I don't think I've told you this story. I used to do a show called Evil Con Carne, where I was Hector Con Carne, a brain of an evil scientist trying to take over the world. There's a lot of those in cartoons. But he is a disembodied brain on the body of a dancing bear.
That old story?
Exactly. And Armin Shimmerman was in it, Grey Delisle, and Frank Welker was the bear. Now the bear doesn't talk. Frank's just making like bear sounds. And it's a fun show, it's a great cast, we're having fun. And Frank suggested one time, it's like, oh, this is so much fun. You guys, we should just make up an episode, improvise an episode one time. And the producer listened to it. And we went, it's like, oh, I didn't get a script today. It's like, oh, there isn't one. And came in with like an outline. It's like, you guys are, it's like, and we all looked at Frank, it's like, oh, good. The guy who don't gotta talk wants us to just make up an episode. So in the course of it, I decided to do what's known in improv circles as an FU, which is where you labels the other person in the scene with something that's like difficult or impossible. So I, turned to Frank's, we're just making stuff up. I'm like, Bosco, I want you to grab those 3 chainsaws, juggle them in the air, and then cut down all of the trees around us so that we can escape. Knowing there's no way, if you can't talk, to, suggest that you... Little did I know. I guess I forgot I was working with Frank Welker. Frank then proceeded to do the sound of a bear juggling chainsaws. Which, to say that is like, well, that's crazy. What would that sound like? It sounded like exactly what he did. You hear the sound, you're like, oh my God, that sounds like a bear juggling chainsaws. He's not doing chainsaw sounds, but it sounds like, I don't know how he did it, but it was, yeah.
That's Frank for you.
And the nicest man on the planet.
He is responsible for me being introduced to Nickelodeon, so I'm eternally grateful to him. Yeah. He's the best. In case you don't know that name, any monster you ever heard, it's him.
Yeah. Any movie with an animal in it, Frank is probably in the credits as the sound of that animal.
Or the brilliant Martians in Mars Attacks.
Right.
Is that Frank?
The whole language, yeah.
Oh my God. That still makes me laugh.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, he is the bar.
He is.
Sorry.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Back over to the lazy side. Like all these people are standing up, these people are like, I'm just gonna listen to you.
For Phil, how did you get the inspiration for Bowlby?
Oh, on Jimmy Neutron.
Yeah.
Boy, was a giant space dog.
I have no idea. I was just guesting on the show, and they had this weird character, Bowlby Stroganovsky, from a random place. It's like he's just come.
And so I started doing these plays.
And they're like, that's weird. Keep doing it. Yeah, I was just trying to be as weird and strange as possible.
A lot of the stuff we come up with is just serendipity of the moment. It really is. There it is.
Hey, so my question was, if Hermes and Squidward were to meet, what would that conversation look like?
If who and who?
Squidward and Hermes.
Okay.
So, you know, Hermes is the registered government bureaucrat for the Planet Express Corp. And he's got a little bit of a problem with this crab guy. So I'm not sure how I would feel about a squid.
I think I'm involved.
And scene.
Thank you very much.
This question is more for Rodger, but I'd like to hear the other two of yours opinions. What is the favorite episode that you voiced in so far?
Favorite episode?
Favorite episode? I have several, but there's one that I really liked. It was so strange. It was kind of a Raymond Chandler thing. The clarinet gets stolen, and then everything turns black and white. And then Squidward, for the rest of the episode, narrates like Sam Spade. And so I got to kind of migrate a little bit away from Squidward. It was a very, very funny episode. And there's a new one that just came out, and I came up with this idea. I'm so proud of myself. But Sandy's rocket goes to the moon, and Squidward's in a cave, and he's trying to get out. And he's poking his head through holes. Every time he pokes his head through a hole, there's something weird on the other side. And the last one, it goes into live action, and he pokes his head into the hole, and it's the artist's palette for an animator. And I'm the animator. And so he pokes his head out, sees that, screams, and I see the character, and I scream, and it's identical scream.
Do you remember any episodes?
That's okay, go ahead. What are some of your favorite episodes?
It's terrible, I don't remember much.
Listen, you don't have to memorize a voiceover.
No, there are two episodes that really killed me. One was Cow and Chicken, and it was, she was a child star. And they dressed her as Shirley Temple, and she had to audition for the children's stars. And then there was an episode of Rocko's Modern Life, where my character, Bev Bighead, also my character, Ed, Beverly always wanted a nose, and so she gets a nose transplant. And they have this big, huge honking nose on her. And, you know, she gets all dolled up, and she goes home, and she smells how bad it smells. And she falls apart, completely falls apart. She ends up in a support group for people who have oversensitive smells. It sounds utterly stupid as I'm mentioning, but I really laughed my ass off.
Sounds like a very special episode.
It was Hallmark, very Hallmark.
No, I mean, I have to say, I don't know if I have a favorite, but as a comic book guy, it was great. There was an episode of Justice League, the only episode where my character, Green Lantern, actually said the Green Lantern oath. And what was so amazing about it was, I remember talking to the writers, and they're like, well, we can't say the oath. Because in a comic book, that's just one panel. You just write it. But in a cartoon, you'd have to sit there and listen to the guy say it for a minute and a half. And it's like, it's basically, you're watching someone charge their phone. You know, so the only time they actually did it was they had to create a reason. You know, the Manhunters were destroying the lantern on the planet of Oa, and Jon Stewart, in order to draw the power, you know, so he uses the oath as a way to channel his willpower.
In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light.
And then he relights. Wow, they made it make sense. You know, dramatic sense.
You made it make dramatic sense by doing it.
And it rhymes.
Everybody else gotta stand in line, you don't gotta stand in line, rules for everybody else?
This is not the Washington press room.
Fake news.
I have a question for Squidward.
Present.
Is mayonnaise instrument?
No, Patrick, mayonnaise is not an instrument. Horseradish is not an instrument either. Too bad they didn't kill me.
Hi, this is mostly a question for Phil. Where do you get the inspiration for most of your characters?
From the people I'm working with. I mean, the way I see it, as voice actors, we're at most a third of these characters. Because without the writing and without the animation itself, it's, it's bad radio. But working together, I mean, every voice I come up with, they have a description of the character, I read it, and I give my take. Then you go in and you meet with the creator as in a callback or whatever, and there's usually sort of a finessing. It's like, okay, we like what you're doing, can you add a little of this or take away some of that? And working together, you find the voice. Because obviously the creators know the storylines. They know where this character needs to go, what they need to be able to do, and what they need to communicate, overall. So once we get together, it's like, okay, is this what you're looking for? It's like a little bit of that and a little bit of this, and it's basically like cooking by committee.
Well, can I add to that? There's another way to look at this too, and that is, if you are working with a very open-minded creator, director, they come in very definite about something, and then some guy comes in and knocks it out of the park in an absolute 180 from what the thought was, and that's what often gets it, but it takes the openness of a creator who's willing to let go of an idea and say, that's way better, I like that way better. And sometimes that does happen, so but Phil is, I think, 1,000% right, it's a collaborative, it's an artistic collaborative.
Well, with the people who are smart and good and creative. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you work with people who are kind of hacks.
Stupid and not.
The nuts and bolts of our business is that type of hammering out something. You have an idea of what the character is called for. You come in and they pick and shovel it to get it, and that's the real work of what we do, is shaping things. You have to know how to take directions and put your own input to it too. So that's where you get down in the trenches in our business to really get what they need and want. And as Charlie says, somebody comes in and does something completely opposite. You don't give them what they asked for, you give them what they should have.
That's right, but it takes a very courageous actor to go say, I know what you want, but I have an idea. And let me try this. And hopefully the room is open enough to receive it. Right. And it often is, and it often isn't.
And sometimes voices will, evolve or just change. When we started Futurama, my character Hermes didn't have a Jamaican accent. And as we did the first 3 episodes, it just wasn't clicking, it wasn't working. The character was like, And so Matt Groening came up to me in the hallway and said, hey, can you do a Jamaican accent? And knowing the character wasn't working, of course the answer was yes. It's like, don't replace me, yes. And once we started doing the character with the Jamaican accent, all of a sudden the writers had more ideas, things began to oh, this character is funnier now.
And any long-running show that we have with SpongeBob, everything evolved. My character was very monotone when we first started, blah, 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 blah. And then they learned that I could scream. And so they had a special microphone put in there every day that I was going there, and they made me scream every flipping episode, which is fun by me. It's cathartic, and I save a lot on the psychiatry bills. But yeah, everything does evolve, and you begin to, the longer you can do a character, the more you flesh it out with different things other than that one note you did to get the character. So it's a wonderful process.
Do you ever have the days when it just isn't in you? I mean, whether it's you can't remember what it was you were doing the last recording that everybody loved, or, I mean, I can only imagine coming in and they say, this was really great for Green Lantern, but we're doing Samurai Jack today. That's the other voice. do you ever slip into something you're comfortable with, but it's not what they were looking for or what you've been doing for the show? Do you ever find keeping the different voices straight?
No. If you can't do that,
Yeah, it is.
yeah, no, but honestly, that is, like, there are certain things that are part of the job. Like, if you're a baseball player, you have to be able to throw. Like, this is the, it's like, not being able to, because generally speaking in voiceover, you're gonna do multiple takes, and if you can't replicate the things, like, oh, that was great, but we had, somebody bumped the mic on that last thing. Do the exact same thing, because we love that. Do it again. Like, being able to refine, but also, they have the things that are recorded, so, It's like, what was it, playback? Oh, reference.
I think the job, for me, to answer your question, it's not about a voice, it's their personalities. So I'm not in search of what that sounds like. I'm holding on to, it's a very big dresser drawer, and it's another little file cabinet that I go into because I've created that character. I know that character. So it's not hard to have an on-off switch and find it. But to add to the question, just to sort of fill in what we do, we're not allowed to be sick or tired. We are not allowed to have a headache. We are not allowed to, and in the theater, you're doing 8 shows a week live. Nobody cares. They're coming to see, it is the one and only time, and it's their first time to see a show. You may not disappoint them. Yeah. You may not be half or 2/3. You have to be 110% all the time. It's the first time you're doing it. And so, as a performer, the requirement is you cannot let an audience down, but more importantly, you can't let yourself down. You really have to deliver, period. And I think there's a great, that thrills me. I love that responsibility. I do. And by the way, if you come in with a headache, if you come in with 103 fever, you'll leave with 98.6. Because it's a healing experience too, to just, it's very cathartic.
Unless you have a stuffy nose. We can with stuffy nose.
Right.
We can work literally with a broken leg, but we can't work with a stuffy nose.
That's right.
And I just have to, you just remind me of something, Charlie. Years ago, they did an article on you in the LA Times, and you were describing this very process. And I remember this one phrase about how you approach the job, and you said the phrase, you have to come on fire. And that's exactly what we have to do. You can't phone it in whatsoever. You've got to be the best you can be every single moment in front of that microphone.
Do you guys have like what I call a pitch pipeline for certain characters? Like a line that you go to that helps you find the placement or remember where that character lives in you?
Every now and again.
After 19 years, I've got my pitch pipe in.
Yeah, I know, that's it. Yeah, there are certain characters that you just are living with.
A lot of times you have to say one word, and that's him, and then you'll go from there.
Cow and chicken, particularly since I was talking to myself all the time, Cow's thing was, and when I would get lost. Chicken was, and the red guy was always, ooh. And if I sort of held on to that, but it wasn't, I didn't get lost, but yeah, every now and again, because
recalibration.
Yeah, I mean, Cow's still alive, but my dogs only know me as Cow.
Listen, I hated this, but we are out of time. If we could do it very fast, one last question. We gotta go quickly.
Roger, I've been waiting like 18 years to talk to you. I just want to know that if you really had a recumbent bike, and if you did end up selling it, and your last episode was like 2017.
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear that.
For your recumbent bike that they wrote in on SpongeBob, they said
the bike?
They said they wrote it for you.
Yes, one of my inventions is that when you come to my table, but it has me riding my recumbent bike, where you're leaning back a little bit. It's like a chopper.
Okay.
And if we ever see Squidward riding a bike, it's my bicycle. Because I was riding in, Stephen Hillenburg saw me one day with his son, and he asked to ride it, and ever since then, that's been Squidward's bicycle.
All right, well, unfortunately, we are out of time. Let's give a big round of applause. You can come back and see these guys at the table like this, and get some autographs signed, and ask the questions there. Thank you all so much for coming out.
We're all thanking later on today.
Come on,
we have Evelyn Kroger as Himiko Toga from My Hero Academia. And now we have Kaylee Hartwell, Hannah Anderson, Alana Hill, Annie Hall as Undyke Papyrus and Frisk and Chartis.